You just watched a full sprint play out. You saw how the meetings, the roles, and the board work together in sequence. But here is the truth. Most non-technical teams do not fail because they do not understand Scrum. They fail because they fall into the same trap over and over again without realizing the translation is the problem, not the framework. And you may already be in one of them if your daily Scrum feels like a status report, if your sprint keeps growing mid-week, or if nothing ever feels truly done. What you are experiencing has a name, and it is fixable. I've watched dozens of non-technical teams adopt Scrum. The ones that quit almost always hit one of 7 specific traps. Once you can name them, you can avoid them. So let me walk you through all 7. Trap number 1 is oversizing stories. The team writes user stories that are too big to finish in a single sprint. Let me give you one example. As a hiring manager, I want a full redesign onboarding program so that new hires are productive faster. Now, if you think about it, that is not a user story. That is a 3-month initiative wearing a user story costume. If you cannot demo it at the end of the sprint, it's too big. Break it down. The first story might be, as a new hire starting on Monday, I want a welcome email with my schedule and login credentials so that I know what to expect on day 1. That is finishable, that is demoable, that is a real story. Trap number 2 is skipping sprint retrospectives. This is the most dangerous trap because the damage is invisible until it's too late. So here is what happens when a team skips retrospectives for 3 sprints. Sprint number 1, a small miscommunication on about who owns the client follow-up. Nobody says anything because it seems minor. Sprint 2, the same miscommunication happens again, but this time it causes a missed deadline. Now, frustration builds privately. People went to colleagues, but not to the team yet. Sprint 3. 2 team members are openly blaming each other. Trust is breaking, the manager steps in and announces Scrum does not work for this team. So it was never a Scrum problem, it was a feedback problem. The retrospective exists to catch it at sprint 1. Without that checkpoint, small friction compounds into real conflict. Every sprint your team skips a retrospective, you are choosing to let problems accumulate instead of solving them while they are still small. Trap number 3 is treating the daily Scrum meeting as a status report for the boss. When team members face their managers instead of each other, the meeting stops being a team sync and becomes a performance update. People start justifying their time instead of surfacing risks. The fix is simple. Direct your update to the team, not the person evaluating you. And if the manager is running the meeting like a status quo, that is a Scrum Master conversation, not a team member problem. Trap number 4, confusing the product owner with the project manager. The product owner decides what the team works on and in what order. They do not decide how the work gets done. They do not assign individual tasks. They do not track hours. When the product owner starts managing the team instead of the priorities, the team stops thinking for themselves and starts waiting for instructions. And you don't want that to happen. You will recognize this when team members stop discussing options in sprint planning and starts waiting quietly for assignments. Scrum has quietly turned back into traditional management with a new vocabulary. Okay? Trap number 5, adding work mid-sprint without removing anything. So, someone walks up to the team on day 4 and says, "You also need this by Friday." Could be related or not related to what you are doing. The team says yes without adjusting the plan. So by day 8, 3 items are behind and the team is stressed. The sprint was not too short, it was overloaded after it started. The rule is straightforward. If something comes in, something goes out. The product owner and the team decides together. If the new request is truly urgent, it replaces something. It does not stay on top. Trap number 6 is waiting for perfect before calling it done. A marketing team finishes the campaign brief. It is approved, clear, and ready for the next step. But someone wants to refine one more section, and then another section. The brief sits in progress for an extra 4 days while the team polishes something that was already done. So you will recognize this when items sit in the in progress column long after real work is finished. Done doesn't mean perfect. Done means it meets the team's definition of done and it's ready for feedback. Ship it, get the feedback, improve in the next sprint. That cycle is faster and more accurate than perfecting in isolation. Trap number 7, not protecting sprint commitments. The team commits to 5 items in the sprint planning. By day 3, leadership has added 2 more. Nobody pushed back. Nobody removed anything. By day 10, the team delivers 4 items out of 7 and feels like they failed. They did not fail, they were set up to fail. Sprint commitments are not suggestions. They are agreements the team made based on their real capacity. When the commitment is not protected, the team loses trust in the process, and a team that does not trust the process stops following it. Okay? So, those are the 7 traps. Every one of them is fixable, and none of them are about your team being incapable. They are about a framework that was never properly translated for how your team works. Now, let me ask you this question. What if your team is already doing it wrong? Let me give you 3 scenarios and what to do in each one. Okay, are you ready? Scenario 1. Your team skips events. Maybe the retrospective disappeared. Maybe sprint planning takes 5 minutes and nobody commits to anything specific. Start with 1. Pick event your team would benefit from most and suggest bringing it back. You do not have to fix everything at once. One restored event changes the rhythm. Scenario number 2. Your team uses the words but not the principles. You have a daily Scrum meeting, but it is a 30-minute status report. You have a product backlog, but nobody ranks it. You have a sprint, but the work gets added constantly. When the vocabulary is there, but the discipline is not, the team is performing Scrum without practicing it. Name the gap. One sentence is enough. We call this a daily Scrum, but we are reporting to one person. Can we try thinking as a team instead? That kind of honest observation opens the door without creating a confrontation. And scenario number 3. The framework feels forced. Nothing fits. Meeting feels pointless. The board feels like theater. So before you blame Scrum, ask this. Is the team's work actually complex enough to need it. If every task is routine, predictable, and independent, Scrum might generally be too much structure. But if priorities shift, dependencies exist, and the work crosses people, the problem is usually not the framework, it is the translation. And that is exactly what this course has been built toward. Here is what I want you to take away from this lecture. Imperfect Scrum that improves your team's communication is better than perfect Scrum that nobody follows. Okay? Remember that. You do not need flawless execution. You need honest commitment, visible work, and one improvement every sprint. If you can only focus on few traps, start with these 3. Skipping retrospectives, adding work mid-sprint, and not protecting commitments. Fix those first, and the rest becomes easier to address. Okay? And I've prepared something in the download section below this video. You will find the translation trap cheat sheet. It has all 7 traps on one page with the warning signs, the fixes, and a short diagnostic called "Is my team doing it wrong?" That helps you separate framework problems from team problems. This is the page team sprint and bring into sprint planning. If your team uses only one thing from this course, use this. And here's your assignment. Read through the 7 traps and cycle the 2 or 3 your team is most likely to fall into. Then share the cheat sheet with one colleague, not to criticize your team, but to start a conversation about where the translation might be breaking down. Most teams never fix these problems because nobody names them. The moment someone does, everything starts to change. Okay? Now you have the full picture, the roles, the meetings, the artifacts, and the complete sprint walkthrough, and the traps that trip up the teams around you. In the next lecture, we'll turn all of it in action. Module 6 gives you your Monday morning plan, your first 24-hour checklist, and the confidence score that proves you are ready. That comes next.